This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and we have a Crosley, an older model, probably from, it's probably 20 years old or pretty close to it. Now let me just start off by saying these are still not great by any sense of the word, but this older generation of Crosley is a little better than some of the later products that they've marketed. And notice I say marketed because they didn't make any of these. The Crosley name is just a name used by an importer of Chinese crap. It is in no way, shape, form, or fashion related to the original Powell Crosley Corporation out of Cincinnati, Ohio. But anyway, this model here is a 3-speed mono record player. There's the speaker right here. And for these types of portable record players, mono is probably the best thing anyway, especially if you're going to be playing older 45s or 78s. It may not be in the best condition. And this one also has an AM/FM radio built into it. I got this cheap and the wall wart power supply was missing, so I fabricated something. I had a wall wart that the end had been cut off of, so I just simply spliced on another end off of a defective wall wart to test this thing. And then I noticed the turntable was turning rather too freely and the clip was missing, so I lifted that off, and the belt was not attached to the motor pulley, so I put that back in place and dug up a clip to retain the turntable platter. And it turns now, but we have absolutely no audio, no tick from the speaker, no nothing on radio, just platter rotation, and that's it. I wonder if this is an auto stop mechanism. Yeah, this is one of those where it stops at the end of the record, and then to start it, you click the arm back to the right there. But as you can tell, absolutely no audio whatsoever. I'm hoping this is a simple fix, like maybe somebody monkeyed with this and the speaker wire somehow got unplugged. I certainly hope the amplifier IC isn't burned up, because getting parts for these things, as you might expect, is often difficult to impossible, because these things were really not meant to be serviced in the first place. Now, I don't know what I'll do with this. If I fix it, it may go up on the Facebook baby clothes and cell phones pages, and I might try to sell it. Or if I can get it sounding halfway decent, I may just keep it around here. Who knows? But it seems like the Crosley crap, people will buy that, but the vintage stuff, they act like it doesn't exist. Okay, we have the motor board lifted up, but this is about as high as I can lift it because they've got some hot snot holding the cabling down to the bottom of the cabinet, so we're going to have to get that loose before we can even lift this out to do any kind of exploratory surgery or any kind of service work on it. Okay, I found a date on the underside of the turntable, April 2002, so this thing is pushing 20 years old. And here's the circuit board. Looks to be pretty much IC based. This is the little amplifier IC here. And unlike some of the newer Crosleys, this looks to be pretty much through-hole components, so if we have to replace anything, then that should make it a little bit easier to do something with. There's the speaker. Looks to be, what, about a 3.5, 4 inch, something like that. And that's going to be the first thing we're going to check. And then if that's bad, if that's still good, the amplifier IC is the other likely culprit. Okay, measuring the resistance across these leads here, I get about 27 megohms. So yeah, I'd say that speaker voice coil is open. Now we got to get it out and see if I can find a suitable replacement around here. And when I test it here, As you can see, wide open. Now, I hope the reason it's wide open is not because the amplifier shorted and put DC on here, but we'll just stick another speaker in here. I can look through my junk and find something that will fit. I can probably come up with a bit better speaker than what was in it originally. I hope so anyway. Okay, I found a speaker. One out of another Crosley, by the way, but a little bit better quality speaker than what was in it. Now, this is not the preferred way to mount this, but this is about all I'm willing to do to this. We just have the speaker sitting down into the opening where the other speaker was, and then the weight of the motor board screwed down on top of it will hold the speaker in place, so there won't be any danger of it moving. And that's about it. Now, I did tighten down this nut on the tuning shaft. It was loose, and also the screws that hold the latches in place were loose, and they just spun around in the wood or the particle board or whatever it is. So I just ran some wood glue down in there, and we'll let that dry, and that ought to hold them in place. That's why on older record players they had the latches riveted in place so there wouldn't be any chance of them coming loose. And just to give it a little extra support, we'll lay this piece of wood on top of it that was part of holding the other speaker in place. Okay, the wood was too thick, but it's no big deal. With this motor board down in place, that keeps the speaker from moving around, so there should be no problems there. Alright, here's the radio.
Took my wife to the Nope.
And the Mississippi State Parole.
Urgent efforts to treat a parts of the world, yet still the same.
Like a Pentagon, strike with the second half. Solomon, letting bygone be Cardinals for real.
They have more than
Cross circles.
Let me get a free cold, never slacking, man. Sipping in a black rain.
Everybody knows how the reindeer loved him.
30s for Friday night into Saturday, where we'll see even more sunshine. Temperatures only reaching into the mid-50s for Saturday, thanks to a second cold front bringing in cooler air, and we could see our first potential freeze Saturday night into Sunday. Temperatures could get as low as the lower 30s, but we'll see more sunshine on Sunday afternoon. I'm meteorologist Harrison Nix for WMER 93.1 FM and 1390 AM. Good News Gospel Radio.
And currently in Meridian, it is sunny and 50. At Good News Gospel,
Yeah, that's their
WMER.
FM
Weather update, a
translator.
service of Old Town Family.
Pretty much from this point on, it's either religious stations or public radio.
We also do our news.
I just gotta say.
Support for NPR comes from NPR station.
But this thing does pretty good on FM. However, on AM, between the interference from the camera and the switching wall wart, we really don't have much hope here except for local stations.
Save you 15% or more. Lowe's Provember event is key.
Well, there's something from out of town trying to come in.
what I feel now for the first time.
Yes. Yes. What the heck is return?
I think if we substituted the wall wart with one that's a standard linear power supply brick, this thing would probably do better. Now, one thing I don't like about these concerning the wall wart is they're generally not small enough to fit under the lid so you can easily store the thing. So when you carry one of these types of record players around, you have to remember to have the wall wart in one hand and the record player in another hand, which is a bit stupid. Now, I realize some of the newer wall warts are small enough that they might fit under the lid of this, but there again, those are switching wall warts, and those might be detrimental to radio reception, especially AM. Now, of course, if you don't care about AM, then that obviously won't be a big deal. But if you plan on listening to AM on this, you probably need to power it with something besides a cheap switching wall wart power supply. Now, let me go find some records and see what the record player sounds like. Alright, here we are with an LP.
Caution lights blink out their warning. Some old faithful Big Ben clock chimes 3 a.m.
And of course, when this gets to the end, it will shut off, and then to restart it, you click the arm back to the right. Okay, now a 45. And then we'll do a 78 next, and I will swap the needle over for the proper 3mm stylus for 78s. Now, why on earth they didn't equip these with a cartridge with a flip needle, I'll never know. If something's got 3 speeds, then it ought to have a flip needle on it. Now, I could change this cartridge to one with the flip needle, but that would entail me having to add some kind of counterweight to the rear of the tone arm, and if this was something I was going to keep, then I'd probably do that, but I'm probably not going to keep this, and most anybody who's buying this is probably not interested in 78s anyway, and besides, I don't want to spend another $20 on a cartridge for this. So in fact, I really don't want to spend any more money on it. I got it cheap, and I'll sell it cheap, and we'll just leave it at that. Now, one thing I will commend them on is it looks like they used a genuine Japanese Chuo-denshi cartridge instead of a Chinese knockoff. And the main issue I have with the Chinese knockoffs is the stylus often does not fit very securely on those, or in some cases it fits too securely and it's hard to get off, and whenever you replace the stylus, it's likely going to be one that was manufactured for a genuine Chuo-denshi cartridge, and when you try to install it on the Chinese knockoff, it won't snap on, so you end up having to replace the whole cartridge. Alright, here we are with a 78. Turn that down a bit. Now, in actuality, playing 78s on something like this is probably the best use for one of these types of record players, but even still, an old classroom type record player would be far superior for playing 78s. These record players, as tinny as they sound, and the way they emphasize the higher end, it pretty much brings out the surface noise on a 78, but if your record's in decent shape, it'll sound okay. But all in all, this record player it's not the quality of the older ones, but it's not as bad as some of Crosley's newer offerings. You know, if you find one in good shape, it's reasonably priced, you know, it might be worth picking up to play with, but in no way would I ever pay new retail price for any kind of Crosley record player. The biggest thing this one has going for it is the radio tuner. It has a surprisingly good FM tuner in it, and the AM might be better if it wasn't for the interference producing wall wart in the case of me doing this video, the camera. Alright, that's about all I've got for this right now. So hope you got something out of this. This was a little quick repair video, and more to come later.